Hello there. Today, we're going to go over the new sponsorship system, Marketability, and also why you're probably struggling a little bit with the cost cap in your creative team first season. So first and foremost, we are going to go over the sponsor negotiation. And if you do enjoy videos like this, I'll be making a lot more in the future. So please like and subscribe as that helps me out a ton. But yeah, the new sponsorship system, you basically have a complete revamp here. And you start off the season by picking a primary sponsor the upcoming season. So as you can see here, depending on the package you pick, you're going to get different levels of funding, and that funding is going to come from 3 different sources. So we have the guaranteed funding, which is upfront. The second you sign the deal, you get this money immediately to spend on facilities and upgrades, designs, really whatever you wish. Engagement is a different type of potential funding. It is fairly easy to get, but it's kind of similar to 22 and 23, where you trade debuffs for money. So these are engagement targets that you're going to be getting, we'll go a little bit more into them in a little bit, are going to be giving you temporary debuffs that last basically 6 weeks at a time in exchange for money. The final one is race day potential funding, and they've really changed how you can get this funding compared to 22 and 23, but as I mentioned, we'll go into that a little bit later. In this year's game, it's basically just where you finish that matters. There's nothing else where you finish. If you finish well, you'll be able to get this money. But again, it is potential. If you don't perform well, you're not going to be able to get the full race day funding, and you might lose out on a lot of money. Whereas engagement is a lot easier to come by, but it's going to cost you a few debuffs along the road. So in our case here, because we are playing Sauber, we are limited by our marketability. Your marketability is going to decide what kind of sponsor packages are available to you. And as you can see, they are actually have star ratings. So these 2 packages are 1-star rated. This package is 2-star rated, and with Red Bull, you'd usually get 3 stars, so even they don't get the full 5-star package, or at least they didn't when I was testing. Now we're going to pick this one because it is not only the biggest package, but it also has a ton of upfront funding, and this is something I really recommend that you try and get, because again, upfront funding is guaranteed, can't lose it, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Secondly, we can pick up to 5 secondary sponsors, and they work kind of the same as the primary sponsor. They offer you either all 3 or just 1, like these 2. And they do have another quirk to them, and that is that they sometimes come with mandatory activities. You can see a little contract symbol down in the left corner on 2, 4, and 6. And they kind of symbolize that there is a mandatory activity here that is going to have an effect on your team. You can't decide when a mandatory activity happens, but there are 8 engagement periods over the course of a season. And for this one, in one of those 8 periods, one of our drivers is going to have a fashion show appearance. For this one of those periods, we're going to have a wind tunnel facility decrease because of a hire. And for 2 of those periods, we would have energy drink cameos, which will lower our driver's marketability. So honestly, just pick what you feel like here. Engagement is again easy to come by, but don't go all in on engagement, because then you are going to have to pick a lot of debuffs. But in our case here, we don't really have any upfront packages. We only have engagement packages, and we only have race day packages. So you might want to look for something that has a combination. Drive marketability can be a little bit harsh, but it's not a huge deal. And honestly, a fashion show, we'll take that. And other than that, we are just going to be looking at probably just maximizing our income here in somewhat of a balanced way. But again, we don't have any real upfront packages. So what we're going to do is just pick a lot of race day performance, because we have the worst car. We should be able to improve. But again, this is a decision you're going to have to make for yourself. Do you think you can improve the car well enough that you're going to be beating your targets within the next couple of races? As an example, Red Bull is going to expect 1-2s every race. In our case, the Saubers, to get the highest level of money, we're going to have to get like 16th place or so. So it varies from team to team. Engagement, again, can be a little bit hard to come by, but it's far more reliable, I think, than race day funding, particularly early on. Now, after you picked your package here, you can actually click to the right, and it'll give you a list of what you can expect to happen. So, looks like Bottas is going to be doing both the fashion show, him and his mullet, and also he's going to be doing the energy drink cameos, while we also have the wind tunnel down here. I would like a little bit more information from this screen, and I have suggested it, so hopefully we get that in the future. Now, after you've done this and signed your sponsor package, as you can see the full information here. Up front, we have engagement, we have race day. We need to do the next step, which is to pick a sponsor plan. And this is how you get your engagement money. And as you can see, the sponsor plan includes one of the mandatory activities for this plan, the first out of 8. And again, each of these plans last 6 weeks. You can see which races they affect over here, and also the total effects after you pick them. But what we need to do is reach the engagement target of 3,375 in order to get 4.49 million paid out, in addition to the mandatory goal here, the win total higher that gives us 8.2 million. So what we are looking at here is going to be probably a race appearance. I wouldn't really recommend these because driver performance rating goes down. But let's face it, this is the first week, the first 3 races, and we still need that time to develop the car. So now, this time, it's actually acceptable. Anything that gives you a negative driver mentality debuff, I would avoid. Mentality is incredibly strong right now, so use it for all it's worth. Factory tours, it's probably not going to be making too many parts these first 3 weeks, or rather these first 6 weeks, so I would be fine with this. But there are a bunch ones you can pick. You can debuff your aerodynamics head, technical chief, race engineers. You can do simulator, lower the development rate a little bit. You can send your scouts on a STEM tour. You can use your weather center. So these buffs vary greatly from plan to plan. So pick the ones that fit your situation the best. Now, once you've reached your engagement target, there's no need to do anything more, because as you can see, we have the maximum amount of money. And even if we try and exceed it even further, it's not actually going to give us any more cash. So there's no point, in going above your engagement target. The second you reach it, that is you done, everything is sorted. You can just confirm and go to, well, wait the next 6 weeks for the next one. But yeah, as you can see, driver performance rating will be down for these 3 GPs. You can get the overview here. And then we have the facility effectiveness down on the factory. Again, would love if this was a little bit more clear on what facility, but you get a good overview of what you can expect there, really. When it comes to marketability, it is how appealing your team is to sponsors. Marketability affects the quality of engagement activities that it'll offer, the amount of money you'll give your team for doing those activities. I also believe that you'll get more engagement points when you set up your engagement plans if you have higher marketability, particularly with the drivers. But in general here, we are going to go through how it works. So your team marketability is affected by 4 factors. Both of your individual drivers' marketability, and there's definitely some buffs going on here because it scales to 100 on the page. But as you can see, Bottas is 170, show is 150. We also have bonuses from our facility, which is basically mainly hospitality, helipad, tour center, and memorabilia room. And these can buff your stats quite a bit when you level them up. The marketability goes up drastically. And finally, we have the team rating, which is, of course, dependent on how well you have performed in the previous season. So there isn't too much that actually affects marketability. And generally, facility bonuses is the one that you'll have the most control over. And I haven't really seen anything that indicates that the money you get from sponsors grows over the course of a season, at least not by much. So it's probably going to be beneficial to maximize the facility bonuses going into your second or even your third season in order to try and get a little bit better team marketability so you can get your hands on better sponsored deals. When it comes to individuals' drivers' marketability, you can check that out on their contract page. It'll be down here, as you see. And a driver's marketability is based on how appealing the drivers to sponsors, based on their worldwide fan base, their popularity in their home country, and how interested that country is in Formula 1. So there is a bunch of things that are affected, including race performance, sponsor activities, things like that. And generally, it's kind of easy to race. You just perform well. That's basically it. Now, as you remember, Bottas here has 74. Show has 70. And if we go back to the team marketability screen here, you can see that 170 versus 150. So there's definitely some sort of calculation here with the base marketability and then, fan base, country fan base, their country's appetite for F1, how they perform, things like that boosts the team marketability. Because as you can see, these numbers are higher than you would expect, unless maybe they cap up at like 250. I actually don't know. Haven't tried max marketability yet, so I'll probably go more in depth on the marketability aspect a little bit later. Lastly, I also wanted to mention how the creator team cost cap works, because as you can see, our cost cap here with this team is 96.5 million. And I'm going to give you a couple of seconds here to think about how much cost cap do you think you get for creator team, and if that might be why you are struggling a little bit with the finances in your first season of creator team. So let's jump over and see exactly how much you're given. Now here we are on a fresh save with create a team, and as you can see, the cost cap here is just 64 million as compared to 96 in the regular 10 team mode, and that is probably the main reason why in create a team you might struggle a little bit with finances. It's not because you're bad or anything, but it's because the create a team mode you just start with far less cost cap because a lot more money has been spent into developing the car to begin with, and it seems like this has no, like the car part development cost, it has no effect on how good or how bad your car is. So it's kind of a weird choice that they've elected to take basically a third of your remaining cost cap just because you're playing create a team. It might be a bug, it might be a glitch, it might be a, a choice that the devs have made, but you have just so much less money, 32 million less in create a team compared to the regular mode. And of course, that's going to lead to you being a little bit more financially unstable. You're going to be a little bit more limited on development. So do keep that in mind if you play create a team. Now, with this said, I hope you've enjoyed this guide. It's been interesting to make. And if you have, please do like and subscribe, as that will help me out a ton. I'll be having a lot more of this coming out over the next few weeks to months, really, like last year. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.